Ever had that feeling? Like, man, I wish things at work would just, I don't know, run smoother.
Yeah. Or
So,
even just like in life in general.
totally.
It's been kind of on my mind lately, and it turns out there's this whole world out there dedicated to making that happen,
Yeah.
workflow automation.
Right.
But what really kind of sent me down this rabbit hole was this research paper.
Yeah.
It's called Model Context Protocol Servers, a novel paradigm for AI-driven workflow automation and comparative analysis with legacy systems.
Yeah. That's a mouthful.
It is a mouthful.
But it's a fascinating paper.
Totally.
It really piqued our interest because, I mean, it points to like a potentially revolutionary shift
Yeah.
in how we automate tasks.
Yeah.
And it introduces this whole new concept.
Okay.
Model Context Protocol Server.
MCP.
MCP servers, yeah. And puts them side by side
Right.
with the automation tools.
Yeah.
The ones you're probably already using.
Right.
So our mission today is to really dive into,
What are these MCP servers all about?
right.
And how do they compare to, like, the Zapiers?
Yeah, the Zapiers.
And IFTTTs you might already be using.
Right, exactly. So to kind of get our bearings here,
Uh-huh.
the paper lays out this history
Okay.
of workflow automation
Right.
in 3 stages.
Okay.
The first wave,
Yeah.
right, was all about these rule-based systems.
Right.
So think way back to like 2011,
Okay.
the launch of IFTTT.
Yeah.
It was all about setting up these very specific,
Yep.
if this happens,
Yeah.
then do that kind of rules.
Right. Very straightforward.
Right.
If a certain event occurs, so say, you upload a photo to Facebook,
Right.
then a specific action would automatically follow. Like save that picture to your Google Drive.
Totally, yeah.
It was groundbreaking for its time,
Yeah.
connecting, different online services in such a simple way.
Right. And then kind of around 2012
Yeah.
came the second generation
Okay.
with platforms like Zapier.
Zapier.
Yep.
These offered a lot more flexibility
Right.
and the ability to connect a much wider range of
Yeah.
business applications.
Totally.
You could kind of build these more intricate,
Yeah.
multi-step workflows.
Exactly. Zapier enabled more complex configurations and integrated a much a larger ecosystem
Yeah.
of business tools.
Okay.
But even these platforms, I mean, they still
Yeah.
largely operate on this principle
Yeah.
of predefined connections
Yeah.
and a fairly linear
Yeah.
progression of tasks.
Which leads us to the third generation
Right.
AI-driven automation.
That's it.
And this is where, like, these model context protocol servers
Yeah.
really enter the picture.
They come into play. Exactly.
The paper points out
Yeah.
that MCP servers
Mhm.
were developed by Anthropic and
know.
became an open standard
Mm-hmm.
in November
Yep.
of 2024.
Feels like yesterday.
I know, it does.
Yeah.
It really does.
It's great. And what's really interesting here is
Yeah.
the fundamental change in approach.
It is.
Unlike those earlier tools with their
Right.
like fixed triggers and actions,
Uh-huh.
MCP servers allow for a much more
Yeah.
dynamic way of interacting with data.
Yes.
They kind of harness the power
Mhm.
of large language models.
Exactly. Those
These really sophisticated AI systems
Yeah, complex AI
to
systems.
understand the context of a situation
Right.
and make like more intelligent decisions
Yeah.
about automation.
Exactly.
So it's not just about like reacting to a specific trigger anymore.
Right.
It's about the system,
Yeah.
understanding the bigger picture,
The whole concept.
and then figuring out like
Yeah.
the best way to handle things.
Exactly. And the paper highlights 3 key capabilities of MCP servers
Okay.
that make this dynamic interaction possible.
Okay.
First, you have tool exposure.
Cool exposure,
Yeah.
which provides a standardized way for those LLM, brains
Right.
to access different enterprise systems through their APIs.
Okay.
Think of it like a universal adapter
Okay.
that allows the AI to plug into all your different software.
Oh, okay. I see. So like
Yeah.
an LLM could potentially like interact with your
Yep.
customer relationship management system,
Right.
your email, your project management tools,
Yeah.
all through this, like
Yeah.
one common way of connecting.
Exactly, through this one adapter.
Okay, got it. What's the second capability?
The second one is contextual prompting.
Contextual prompting.
This involves
Check.
using pre-designed,
Okay.
reusable templates
Right.
for common interactions.
Uh-huh.
So instead of you having to like
Yeah.
build every single automation from scratch
Right.
with like very rigid steps.
Right.
You have these flexible blueprints that the LLM can use and adapt depending on the, you know.
The specific situation it encounters.
So it's like having this like library of smart automation plans that could be kind of like filled in and tweaked on the fly based on like
on the fly, precisely.
Okay.
And then the third core capability is resource abstraction.
Resource abstract.
And this provides a unified way for the LLM to access various sources of information, whether that's, you know, files stored on a server data in a database, or even information from other APIs. So it's like this single gateway for all the data the AI needs to drive the automation.
So it's a system that can like understand the situation, get access to almost any tool or piece of information,
pretty much,
and use like intelligent templates to handle like complex workflows.
Exactly.
That sounds like a whole different ballgame.
It is.
Compared to like
it's a different beast.
Setting up a simple automation in Zapier, for example.
Yeah, it's a significant departure, and to really, you know, grasp how different they are.
Right.
The paper goes into this comparison of the technical, you know, the architecture of MCP servers with those more traditional automation platforms that you might be using.
So let's peek under the hood a bit.
Sure.
How are these MCP servers actually structured from a technical standpoint?
So the paper explains that the MCP architecture follows this client-server model.
Okay.
So you have what are called hosts.
Okay.
And the example they give is Claude Desktop, which essentially act as the interface for the large language models themselves.
Okay.
So these hosts are the entities that are doing the understanding and making the decisions. Think of the host as like the physical body or the operating system for the AI brain.
Okay.
So desktop in this case is that specific environment that allows the LLM to interact with the MCP server's capabilities, the tools, the prompts, and the resources.
Right. Okay. So the LLM is like the intelligence of the host is how it interacts with like
how it interfaces with
the rest of the system.
Exactly.
And then the MCP server itself like makes its functionalities available through these three different types of like...
That's right. Three distinct interface types.
Tools, prompts, and resources, right?
Exactly.
Okay, so the tools connection provides access to actions that can be triggered through APIs.
That's it.
So think of things like managing files.
Okay.
You know, creating new ones, deleting old ones, moving them around.
Or even making calls to other like external APIs to initiate
certain
specific
functions in other software you use.
Right. So if the AI determines that a certain action needs to happen in another application, it can use these tools to make it happen.
Okay. And then prompts, again, were like...
Prompts are those adaptable templates.
Right. Those adaptable templates we talked about earlier, they're designed to like make common interactions more efficient.
More streamlined. Yeah.
So imagine having like a template for summarizing like a long document and then automatically sending it to like the relevant team. The LLM can take that template, fill in like the specific details based on the document it's looking at.
Exactly.
And then like carry out the task. Sounds like it could really like cut down on like the manual effort of setting up like automations that are similar but not exactly the same.
Yeah, similar but not identical.
Each time.
Yeah, each time.
Okay, and then finally, resources.
Resources provide that single point of access to data.
To data, okay.
Yeah, so instead of the LLM needing to know like the specific web address of a file on a server or the exact code to retrieve information from a database, the MCP server handles those underlying technicalities.
It's like the middleman.
It is. It's like a universal translator for data.
Right.
So it provides a consistent way for the LLM to get the information it needs, whether it's a file path or a database query.
So the LLM doesn't have to worry about like the technical details of accessing information.
It just says, give me this information.
It just says, give me this information.
And the MCP server figures out how to get it.
Right, exactly. Now let's compare this to how platforms like Zapier and IFTTT work.
Okay.
The paper mentions they use this trigger action model.
That's the core of their design.
Okay.
Their fundamental architecture is built around these predefined connectors for different applications.
Okay.
So you choose a specific event, a trigger,
a trigger
in one app, and then you define a specific action in another app that should automatically happen when that trigger occurs.
It's very much like
it's very event-driven.
Event-driven. Yeah. And it follows like a direct path.
A straight line.
If this happens in app A, then immediately do that.
Immediately do it in app B.
There's not much flexibility for like complex decision making.
No, Rick.
Or adapting to slightly different situations within
a single automation sequence.
Single automated sequence.
Yeah, not really.
Right.
The paper highlights their key characteristics as having these predefined connectors, workflows that execute, in a straight line, one step after the other.
One step after the other. And limited ability to adapt based on the context of the situation.
Right.
They're fantastic for automating those, straightforward, predictable tasks that you do regularly.
The routine stuff.
The routine stuff.
But they don't have the ability to, reason and adapt.
Not the same way.
In the way that, an LLM connected to an MCP server can.
Exactly. For example, if you get an email with an attachment, a Zapier automation can save it to a folder.
Yeah, but an MCP-powered system could potentially, read the email, understand the content of the attachment, and then route it to the correct department based on that understanding.
So a much more
nuanced action.
Nuanced action.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm starting to really see the fundamental differences in how these systems are built.
Yeah, they're quite different approaches.
So with this new approach of MCP servers, how likely are we to actually see them being used?
Okay.
And in what ways?
Right.
The paper outlines 4 potential ways this could play out, right?
It does. And these scenarios offer some really insightful predictions.
Okay.
The first scenario is enterprise dominance.
Enterprise dominance, okay.
Where MCP servers essentially become the go-to solution for handling complex workflows within, larger organizations, potentially replacing many of the older tools.
Right.
The paper gives this a 75% probability of happening between 2026 and 2028.
That suggests a pretty significant shift.
I think so.
Could be on the horizon.
Yeah, potentially a major shift.
In the next few years, if that prediction holds true.
Yeah, if that pans out.
What would be the main
so in that scenario,
features of this enterprise dominance scenario?
You would see big companies fully embracing MCP servers to manage their, more complicated automation needs that require understanding context and making intelligent decisions.
Right.
So really moving away from a complete reliance on those older, less flexible platforms.
The second scenario is hybrid integration.
Hybrid integration.
And this one actually has an even higher probability,
85%.
With a slightly earlier time frame of 2025 to 2027.
Yep, so that's just around the corner.
This sounds like something you might start seeing impact your workflows sooner rather than later.
I think that's a very real possibility.
Right.
This model envisions a situation where MCP servers and platforms like Zapier kind of work together.
They work together,
Yeah, they coexist and collaborate.
Right.
The idea is that MCP servers would handle the more intricate decision-making parts of a workflow using, the LLM's ability to understand context, while Zapier or similar tools would still be used for executing the more routine step-by-step actions.
Right. Okay.
This high probability likely stems from the existing investment businesses have in platforms like Zapier.
Right.
So a gradual integration allows them to leverage those existing workflows while selectively adopting the more advanced AI capabilities of MCP servers for specific complex needs.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's about using...
It's using the right tool for the right job.
Yeah, the right tool for the right job.
The AI brain handles the thinking, and the more established platforms handle the reliable, repetitive execution.
Exactly.
The third scenario is no code disruption.
No code disruption.
With a 60% probability.
60% probability.
And a slightly longer time frame of 2027 to 2030.
So a little further out.
What would that look like?
Okay, so this scenario...
For someone like you...
imagines the development of really user-friendly visual interfaces for building and deploying automations based on MCP servers.
Okay.
So this would essentially make AI automation accessible to a much wider audience, even if you don't have a strong technical background.
Okay.
Similar to how, no-code platforms have simplified website development.
Yeah, totally.
So instead of needing to be like a programmer to take advantage of LM-driven automation, you could potentially build these sophisticated workflows with a more intuitive, drag and drop
interface.
Right. Okay. So instead of needing to be like a developer to harness the power,
you wouldn't need to code
of LLM-driven automation.
Yeah, exactly.
You could potentially build these
complex workflows with a drag and drop interface.
With a more visual, user-friendly interface.
That could be a game changer.
It could be a game changer
for a lot of people.
Absolutely.
And the final scenario.
The final scenario,
is a niche developer tool.
Niche developer tool, yep.
With the lowest probability.
Yeah, the lowest probability.
At 40%. And an ongoing time frame.
Ongoing time frame.
This sounds like the most limited impact.
The most limited impact.
For the average user.
Yeah. So in this scenario, MCC servers might primarily remain a tool for highly technical users and developers who are comfortable working directly with the underlying technical details,
and that's
like protocols and APIs. So while still valuable for those with that expertise, it wouldn't see widespread adoption among the
general business user. But overall, it sounds like the paper anticipates a significant impact.
I think so.
From MCP servers, especially with Barn. Like that strong likelihood of the hybrid integration model.
That hybrid integration model.
Happening relatively soon.
Yeah, happening in the near future.
It also mentions the potential for AI agentic workflows.
AI agentic workflows.
What exactly does that mean for how you might work?
This is where things get really interesting. AI agentic workflows suggest a move beyond simply automating a set of predefined steps. Instead, you'd have these AI agents powered by LLMs and MCP servers that can proactively take actions, make decisions, and even learn and adapt over time to achieve
broader goals.
Oh, okay.
So think about it. Instead of you manually triaging support tickets, an AI agent could not only categorize them, but also proactively access knowledge bases, identify potential solutions, and even initiate those solutions, all without direct human input.
So instead of just
it's a level of proactive problem solving that we haven't really seen in automation before. It's a more autonomous and intelligent form of automation. Yeah. So it's not just about reacting to specific triggers.
It's about identifying opportunities.
It could potentially identify opportunities for automation on its own.
And suggest ways
essentially even
to improve existing processes.
To improve processes.
And even carry out
tasks.
Yeah.
With very little
minimal
direct oversight.
Yeah. Oversight from a human.
That sounds like a whole new
It really does.
Level of automation potential.
It redefines what's possible in enterprise automation, moving towards systems that are more proactive, intelligent,
And capable of self-management.
Capable of, wow, self-management.
Yeah, it's a big leap.
This all sounds incredibly promising.
It's exciting stuff.
For making, like, work less worky.
Right.
But surely there must be.
But of course, they're always challenging.
Right. Some hurdles to overcome.
That's right.
And